straight to my face, stone cold. Like he said, I don't really like you anymore. And then I took a big, long breath and I thought, I don't like me anymore either.
I'm talking today to Melissa Lanz, who has built 3 businesses over the last 15 years, which is pretty incredible considering she left corporate without a plan. She left her big corporate career as a vice president leading global teams in tech marketing. She walked away from a multiple 6-figure salary with no plan, $30,000 in savings, and a $2,500 startup budget. That budget became the Fresh 20, a meal planning subscription service that grew into an 8-figure business, a HarperCollins cookbook, and features in InStyle and the New York Times. But when a hack wiped out 3/4 of her subscriber base, she rebuilt. And then she launched the Subscription Lab, coaching other founders through the journey she just lived. Today, Melissa works with women founders on the identity work behind their next chapter, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th acts that most people never plan for. I think you're going to love this conversation because Melissa is ready to get real. This is Her Big Leap with Sarah Janzen, where every week I talk with real women who have made the leap from corporate and built their own business successfully. Melissa Lanz, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to the Her Big Leap podcast.
I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
Well, I got to say, like, you and I met a year ago and you came across as just this like seasoned entrepreneur. And it wasn't until recently we had a conversation and you told me your backstory and you're like, no, girl, I was in corporate. And I was like, what? Because you've all like, you came across as this woman with like fully formed identity as an entrepreneur. Okay. So take us back to like the previous life of yours back in the day. Like walk me through, what was your corporate background?
Oh my gosh. I didn't think I was ever going to be in corporate. I was a creative writing and French major at USC. I lived in Paris for 2 years. Like I thought I was going to lead a pretty creative life. And so many of my friends were in the business world. And in 2008, the dot-com boom came along and they were like, Melissa, come on, like work with us, like do something. And then I spent 15 years like in tech and in tech marketing. And it was just something that just like, it was like a wave that I just was like, okay, I'm along for the ride and I'm going to do it. And, I think there was a lot of creativity when you are starting to learn about something and you're in corporate. And I'm a go-getter. So I always wanted to be the one in the room with the answers. So I went, my first job was at a tech startup. It was a gaming company. And then I just kept going to like the next corporate job. And, 15 years later, I was a vice president of an agency that our clients was Nestle, and I was leading teams all over the world. I was up 24/7. I mean, it was just crazy how it happened, right? I just stepped into it, and then all of a sudden, like the vortex of corporate just sucked me in, and I was successful. So there wasn't really kind of that reason to set it down, because when everything is going good and like you get to the table and you're in the C-suite, you think that things are going all right, but underneath they definitely were not going all right.
Did you know that at the time, or is it only in hindsight that you're like, oh, so many things, I look back and things weren't aligned?
I feel like it was half and half. So I definitely knew that there was a more creative, more, kind of personal authority path for me. And I think it was hidden because I was in charge, right, at work. So it felt like a kind of personal authority because I was in charge of teams. I was traveling internationally. I was busy being the boss. But there were moments when I definitely realized that I didn't care as much about the work. I cared about the win. I cared about, being the best in the department. I cared about, my team getting the accolades and getting the job done and, all of the markers. But it was never truly satisfying outside of kind of playing the game.
Right.
And so I think it's it's kind of, insidious the way that, that whole corporate thing works because you feel empowered in so many ways. But then you go home, and when you have to sit with yourself in the quiet, there's nothing left. And that is where that part of me that was like, I don't think I could do this forever because there's nothing left for me. Where am I
Yeah.
now? And
You
I was
say
just,
that
yeah,
you say that, like, when you sit in the quiet, and I'm talking to a lot of women who are like, there is no quiet. Like, like, they're just on on the corporate treadmill, and they don't,
yeah,
or the treadmill of life even, like, there is
yeah.
no moment. The last time we spoke, the last time we saw each other in person, you told me the moment you knew you had to get out. Can you share that with us? Because I think it's so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. Well, there was 3 moments actually, and they just happened back to back. The first clue was I had to go to my boss came to me on a Wednesday, and he said, "I need you to be in Germany and Switzerland, for 10 days. You need to leave on Friday." And I looked at him and I said, "Okay." And in my mind, I'm like thinking, "Okay, I gotta coordinate with my husband. I gotta coordinate, childcare. I gotta coordinate all of the things because I
Yeah,
knew my husband couldn't,
yeah,
carry that load just like that." And I looked at him and I said, "I'm not sure that I can do that. I need to arrange for my kids." And he said, "You have kids?" And mind you, I had worked for him for 2 years,
and
and
how
he
old were your kids at that point?
3 and 4.
So,
Yeah,
wait a
or
minute.
like
First of all,
two and a half and 4, yeah.
you were doing all of this with 2 under 3, or, like, 2 under
2 under
4.
4, yeah, yeah, preschool, not even in preschool, just at home. I had a nanny, I I
You were making multiple 6 figures,
yes,
correct? Like,
yes,
you had means. But when he
yes,
said that,
yeah.
did you take that as, like, my boss doesn't give a crap about me? Or was it like,
No.
holy crap, I'm showing up in a way that they don't even know I have kids?
Yeah. It wasn't about him, it was about me. I realized, like, it was the kind of the first kind of sting of, like, "Oh, I'm not living life in alignment." Like, this person doesn't even know I have kids, and my family is really important to me, and my husband is wonderful, and I loved my kids, and where I spent the most time didn't even recognize me as that person. So it was kind of a sting to me because I realized, "Oh, wow, like, who am I showing up as, like,
Yeah,
in this corporate environment that that people that, employ me don't even know I have kids." So it was
yeah,
really a moment of me going, "Wow, I'm really not aligned with, my life, what's important to me." And then the second thing was, um, my husband, one evening, I got home and the kids had already gone to bed, and I was literally standing over the sink with a BlackBerry in one hand and a frozen burrito in the other hand. And he came in and he said, "We need to talk." And I went, "Oh, I just literally was like, I don't have time for this."
yeah. Like, I can't you see I'm working and
Yeah,
eating
can't
at
you
the
see?
yeah.
Like, I need to eat and I need to, like, and so in that moment, I was like, which one of these things am I going to put down? And I realized I had to put them both down. And I turned around and I said, I kind of was like, what? And straight to my face, stone cold, like he said, "I don't really like you anymore." So that was like a moment for me when I just, it was like, boom. And then I sat there for a moment and I had a reaction of like, I'm going to get defensive. And then I took a big, long breath and I thought, hmm, yeah, I don't like me anymore either. And that was like a big moment when I realized that who I was showing up in and the energy that I was when I was in corporate was not who I really was. And he said to me, "You are so bright. You are you can light up a room. You're smart. You can do anything. You're creative." And he's like, "But you walk around like a zombie." And he's like, "And you treat everyone in your path like an employee." And that was like a moment when I was like, that's not who I want to be.
Like, I feel that. Like, that hurts my heart,
Yeah.
Melissa.
Yeah. And that was like the big moment of like, I got to make some changes.
But wait a minute, time out for a second. Before you
Yeah.
go to number 3, there's a moment there where you
Yeah.
could have, and many women would
Mhm.
be like,
Mhm.
F you don't
Mhm.
understand how important this meeting is. Like,
Yeah.
there are a lot of different ways you could have taken this. Like, can you at least wait until I'm done eating? Like,
There
all the
was, but
things.
I think that the undertone was that I knew,
Mm,
and that it was a line, it was a fork in the road for me, because what he said I had been feeling for a really long time. But like I said, when you're successful and you're making multiple six figures and you're, you know, being flown around the world and running teams, you can get very distracted by having that be the thing that empowers you, that being the thing that's important.
yeah.
And so when he said it, I did have to make a choice between, getting upset or really taking it as a moment of like what I call the pause. It's like, if you take the pause, and this is somebody that I love and I cherish and I had, been married to already, we had already been together for a decade. And so that moment was like, he's right. And nothing is more important to me than him and my kids. So maybe I need to start listening to the internal conversation that I'm having and have the business and the corporate life make less noise.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay. So now number 3. Now we're
Number
like, now I'm like, okay, well, now what's number 3 if that wasn't
number
enough?
3. So kind of I knew, and I was, thinking about it, and I had even, kind of started to map out a world in my company where I wasn't there, and, starting to like give team members more. So in my head, I was like, okay, I got to make a plan. But then I went on another trip, and with one of the bosses, and the trip went fine, like from a professional level, but it did not go fine between the two of us. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I called the owner and I just said, I'm done. I'll finish this trip, but I'm done. And felt such relief. Like the relief was like, and listen, I didn't have some huge, soft place to land financially, right?
Yeah.
I was making a lot of money, but I was also spending a lot of money. It's not like I was just like, oh, I'm going to quit this job and I cannot work for the rest of my life.
Was your husband working at the time? Like, was it
Yeah. I mean, he was working, but I mean, not to the same,
right?
financially, maybe a 4 to 1
Yeah.
of it.
Like a
So it's
quarter
not
of what you
like
were
we
making.
couldn't live our lifestyle and have
Yeah.
our nanny and
Your bougie
my
lifestyle.
bougie traveling lifestyle.
Yeah.
Um, and so and it was nice. Like I never looked at finances because I knew that whatever we were doing, there was enough in the bank, right?
Yep.
And so that feeling of, the pain was more than the fear of like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for money? And so I got back and I went into the office to like kind of, I was like, okay, we got to like make a succession plan for me and everything. And he said, Melissa, like I'm so sorry, you don't have to. He was willing to make so many concessions and like just change my whole entire chain of command to make me happy. And he said, what would it take to stay? And I said, I don't know, like an extra $75,000 a year. And he was like, done. And I was like, oh. And then I went home and I told my husband, and he just kind of shook his head and he's like, okay, babe. And he just knew, right? He knew. And it didn't take more than 2 weeks for me to walk back in my owner's office and say, yeah, you know what? It's not enough. It's just not, there's no amount that would make this right. But it's those things of like, you make a decision, you get distracted. You feel it in your bones, and then you like go out on the edge, and then somebody comes along and causes friction, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll stay a little bit longer.
Or like what I say, like people dangle a carrot. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's the
let
carrots.
me keep you here.
It's the carrots. And in corporate, especially, a couple of things keep women. One is, if you have stock or, you have any kind of bonus and benefit that's like, it's like you're always waiting for the next thing
Hmm.
to uh to mature, or you're always waiting for that. And I just think that's such a trap, you know what I mean? And then the other thing, which I never did, is, you worry about your health insurance and, what are you going to do for your family? But interesting thing, I knew I was always super independent, and I've never let a company. I've never been on company health insurance. I've always made every corporation that I worked for, they paid my personal insurance. It was part of my contract so that I
Oh,
would always never be beholden by like worrying about health insurance.
I love that.
So it was like
Okay.
there's signs, right? There's signs that
Hmm.
that it's like you're ready to cut bait, right? So yeah, I mean, I feel like those were the three things. So when we decided that it was going to be my final 30 days, I sat down with my husband and I was like, now what? And
Yeah.
he's like,
So wait a minute, you quit like without a plan.
no plan, no plan. I mean,
Okay, so tell me what
the
those
plan
first
was
days
I was going
look
to
like.
do something else, but I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna go back to corporate. That was the only plan was told my husband, "If I step away from this job,
Hmm.
then I'm not going back to corporate again, because there's no reason for me to give up this, which is
Right.
pretty juicy,
Yeah.
then in 6 months to be like, 'Oh, I gotta go back and get a job.'" So that was the only, kind of commitment that we made to each other, that if I was gonna leave, it was for good.
Okay, so most couples in that situation would be like, the husband is like, okay, babe, I'm going to step up. I'm going to get a promotion or a different job, or I'll work a second job. Or, okay, babe, like, what are you going to do? What were those next few months like for you guys?
I mean,
And
so
for
we
you, and for you,
had
like emotionally.
I mean, it was so liberating because I think that the only thing in front of me was possibility, and that felt really good for the first time in a long time. And we knew that, we could figure it out and live off of his salary. I mean, he was still making six figures, but it was
Right.
just, um so we were like, okay. And I knew that I wanted to start a business. I wanted to start something. So the only thing, so when I quit, I had $30,000 in a savings account. I had some miscellaneous, like, 401k stuff that came from like different places, but nothing that would,
Nothing
sustain.
substantial.
No, no. Um, and my only concern was I don't want to have to fire my nanny. That was like, I don't want me deciding not to have a job to mean
Yeah.
she doesn't have a job. And I also knew that if I was going to start something else, that I couldn't do that if I didn't give it my all and treat it like a business.
100%.
So, yeah, I mean, the next few months, the first thing I did was write down like all the things that I wanted to do. And there was like tons of stuff. I was like, I'm gonna be the next sprinkles, but with brownies, right? So like I'm ordering brownies from all over the world and having my friends over, and we're taste testing brownies and I'm testing recipes. And then my husband's like, I don't think this is it. This just looks like you and your friends having brownies and champagne every weekend. So I started to think about, and I really had to just listen. And I went down to the Caribbean. I was thinking, you know what? Let's just totally change and let's go down and buy a small property and turn it into a B&B. I mean, my
You really
ideas
were
were like
exploring all the
all,
options.
yes, all over the place. And then a friend called me, one of my dearest friends, and she was like, she had three kids and she was feeling overwhelmed. She worked for Deloitte, And she was just feeling, and she didn't have a nanny, she didn't have a helper, and she was like, "I can't do this, like, I get home, I'm exhausted, I don't know what to feed them." And I'm a trained chef from when I was, younger and living in Paris, and, she's like, "What how do you make it happen?" Because even though I'm eating frozen burritos, my kids were eating all fresh food, nothing frozen.
Mhm.
Right? And so she's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Melissa, I'll just pay you to tell me what to eat." And I was like, "Oh, you don't have to pay. You're my best friend. Like, you don't have to pay me." Um, and then a couple of our other friends said the same thing. And they're like, "I just can't even, I'm so like, I get this feeling and I feel so great at the farmer's market on Sunday. And then I buy all this stuff and then I bring it home and then it all goes to waste." And so I really started to think, I was like, well, food is like so important to me, and family and me feeding my kids healthy is so important to me. And I know the tech stuff. I mean, I've just been in tech marketing, and I know all of that of like how to, build software and apps and all of the things. And so I just started going with what I already knew how to do and what was important to me. And that's how
Mm.
the Fresh 20 was born. It was literally born out of, okay, I have possibility in front of me. I want to do the next thing with something that is important to me. Like I didn't want to go out and, be an affiliate marketer or whatever. I
Right.
wanted to do something meaningful to me. And I wanted it to be something that would connect me more to my family than just going out and like, building like a PR business or whatever. So I took all of those things and I started the Fresh 20, and I
And the Fresh 20 was a subscription service.
it's a subscription service for meal planning, for healthy meal planning, all unprocessed ingredients with 20 ingredients a week to make 5 weeknight dinners.
And how much is
And
the subscription?
At the time, it was like $5 a month, and so, I mean, now it's a little more, but I think
Yeah.
it's like $87 for the entire year for 52 weeks of meal plans and the, like, access to all of the archives, so but at the time, it was $5 a month, it was like a quarterly, it was like $15 was the subscription fee, um, and my only kind of goal was to make enough to pay the nanny.
The nanny. I knew you were gonna say the nanny. Yeah, just let me
Yeah.
keep my nanny.
Yeah. So, and that was like the only goal. And she was like, let's do it. I mean, she was just on fire. She's just like, I got you. If you have to pay me less, whatever, I'm going to help you do this. I believe in you. Like, she was amazing. By the way, she's still with us today. Not full time. We found her another young family, but she's with us 2 days a week, and she's been with us 20 years. So,
Wow.
um, so, so that was the only goal, was to keep her, and then I was like, "Okay, if I can make enough to keep her and then still be figuring out what I'm gonna do, then my husband Trent's salary can, like, pay the mortgage," and
Yeah.
our kids weren't in school yet. So, we didn't have, like, any school expenses or anything like
Right.
that. It was just, those came later, but, um, so it was just that, and I just sat down and I treated it like a job, and I had $2,500 that I said, "I'm gonna start this business with $2,500, and I'm gonna give it 6 months, and if it doesn't work in 6 months, then I'll figure out, something else. Get creative, I'll do whatever," right? And that was it. I allocated $2,500. I did everything. I built the site. I built, the meal plans themselves. I did all of the customer service.
You bootstrapped it.
I totally bootstrapped. Yes. Um, April 23rd, 2010, I hit the publish button on my website and sent out my first email to what I call the 400. It was 400 people in my personal email, and those were like everybody that I'd ever met, every PTA mom, everybody that I had met at a marketing thing, like, right?
Yeah.
And I sent it to 400 people, and 23 people purchased for $15, and I was like, "Oh my god, this wow." And so that first year, I started in April, and I just hustled. I did grassroots marketing, I talked to other food bloggers, I did partnerships, I did collaborations, and so the first year we made $108,000 from April to December. And then And then I just started picking up steam. And so
You say hustled, but can we just pause there for a second? Because I think you're not the first person who's mentioned, like, I really hustled. But compare that to what you were already doing in your corporate job. When you
yeah,
said, like, you told the story of, like, I came home, the kids were already in bed. I
right.
grabbed a frozen burrito. It's not like you were hustling. It's like, I just want to clear the air. It's not like you were hustling more in your business than you were already in corporate.
I think I don't think the
Yeah.
word that you use when you have your own business is hustle. I think it's like sweat equity. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
different because now your day is yours. So you
Mm-hmm.
get to decide.
Yeah.
So I got to spend way more time with my kids and I got to, I was making dinners all the time now because it was my business. I was, talking to other moms. I was, doing school events and so it's a different kind of hustle. It's a hustle on your own terms. And
Yeah.
so it's not really like the same kind of corporate hustle where you're just like under the gun all the time and somebody always and you have to bring it in on time and under budget and all of these things, right?
Yes.
So it's different. It's not necessarily a hustle, but the work is still hard. Like you still have to put in the work. And it wasn't a part-time thing for me.
Got it.
Um, I really wanted it to be, I really wanted to give it my all. And so yeah, so that first year we did that. And then our second year we did 690,000 in our second year of business. And that was in 2011. In 2012, we got picked up by InStyle magazine as like the most genius sites or whatever. So in 2011, I think we did 1.2, 1 point in between 1.2, 1.3. And then HarperCollins called and literally I an email came in and said, "Hi, Melissa. We saw you in InStyle. My name is Amy. I'm interested. I would love for you to write a cookbook for us." And I was like, I thought it was a joke. Like, I was like, and I showed
Are
it
you
to
like
Trent.
Googling, like, is this person legit?
No, I did. I Googled her name. I Googled her name at HarperCollins. I was like, so anyway, so I replied and we struck a deal and I wrote a cookbook for HarperCollins in 2013. It was published. And so and then we got picked up by the New York Times. And I mean, we were just doing a lot of grassroots, a lot of just, I was going out and speaking at, food conferences and mom conferences and doing all of that. And
And this was
so
just a little business you wanted to, like, pay the nanny. Like, that
yeah,
was the
yeah,
goal.
yeah. And then in 2013, we did 1.8 and then it just kept growing.
Holy smokes, Melissa.
Yeah, it was a little crazy until it wasn't.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about that, but looking back at those first few years, because I think this is the biggest fear that most women have,
Yeah,
and not everyone is willing to say, like, "Okay, screw it. I
yeah,
can't," you know, I do hear a lot of women say, "Okay, but I need my nanny." And I love that you were like, "I need the nanny if I'm going to create something, like, I need that time."
yeah.
But also, a lot of people are like, "Can I make as much doing something else
Mhm.
as I did in corporate?" And especially when you're making multiple six figures, like not just barely making 100,000, but like you were making multiple six figures and willing to throw it all away. But did you know that this could create that much revenue for yourself and your family
I did not expect
with a
it.
$5 subscription
Yeah,
service?
I didn't expect it. I think the thing that I do for any business is you really like I was looking around at what happened and it was great that my friends were giving me the data, right? And then I was looking around and it was a time where there was Jamie Oliver's food revolution and there was just all of this information and I really went out and started researching like what's happening for families and so I was kind of riding a wave that was already happening kind of
Right.
in the societal buzz and I think
But
that
not
that
intentionally. It's not like you were jumping on an opportunity.
No, I mean, I just figured this seems like a problem, right? And so
Mm.
it's a problem that that I can solve and it grew because it was a problem for women and I just, and I think the biggest thing is I just told my story. I told my story of looking at taxes in 2008 and seeing $14,000 worth of takeout on my, credit cards. And I was like, at the time, that was a small car, right?
Yeah.
And just realizing that, like, I'm not even eating healthy. I'm just like eating out of convenience. And when I started, it was just like, that was the message. You make it. It's 5 ingredients. It's convenient. It's this, it's that. And I was like, but where's the stories about sitting down at the dinner table with your
Mm.
family? Like, where's the stories about that being the most valuable real estate in your house? So I think it is a matter of, when you want to go do something, you do have to find that connection to it, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, everyone talks about your why. I didn't know that that was my why, but I knew that it mattered to me. And when I was looking at it and when I was doing the work, you know, it continued to matter. So I kept, and then more people were coming on board. So I felt more responsibility. And then it just became something that I was like, oh, okay, like I really have to, shepherd this thing. And
Yeah.
and it just became a business. And let me tell you, I was like the worst solopreneur. The worst.
Okay, tell me more. Tell me, what do you mean by that?
I never did books. I don't think I did books until year 4.
Hmm.
Like, it was a train wreck of that. I didn't,
And
you
when you
know
say books, you mean like bookkeeping,
I
accounting?
didn't yeah. I didn't do any of that. Like, at the end of the year, I sent all of my credit card statements and all my statements to someone, and they figured it, but I didn't have a P&L. I didn't
Right.
have a P&L in my business until I had already made like $4 million. I had no P&L. And I didn't even understand like how important it was to have a P&L. So like,
Right.
when I say like I just did it, I was so like not corporate, not going to do it that way, just going to do it and like do my thing and live my life. I really made a lot of mistakes. Um so, I think it's important. Um, Not everybody has, fast success, but I think it's
Yeah.
important to really understand, when you're starting a new business, like, you don't know how it's going to go. You have hopes and you got to kind of dig in and do the work. It could move really, really quickly. It could move a little slower. I think, I was like, I'm going to give this 6 months. And if there's no traction, I'm
Yes.
going to like figure out how to get traction in something. But I got traction, pretty early on. But the effort was there. And like I said, the kind of the mission was there. And I still have the same mission today, as far as like, I really believe, after raising 2 boys that are both in college now, I really do believe that the dinner table is the great equalizer in every single family's home. And
Yeah.
so it is still important to me, even though I don't run the Fresh 20 anymore. Other people do it, but um, it's still something that I can look back on and say, yeah, I did something good.
That's amazing. And we're kind of jumping ahead for a second, but I mean, that was the first business, but now you've run 2 other businesses
Yeah.
since. Like,
Yeah.
do you want to just like give us a
Yeah.
whistle
I
stop
mean,
tour of the
I,
other?
in 2000, in 2014, 15, my husband he's so wise, that husband of mine. He came to me and he said, I think it was like the late 2014. He said, "Melissa, you're spending 40%." He's like, "I hear you on the phone. You're spending 40% of your time helping other people, like, just for free."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh,
Like other women who wanted to do subscription services or other
yes."
businesses. Yeah.
And he's like, "You love it, and I hear you, and I hear in your voice, like, you really love it, so why don't you just start, coaching?" So I did. By the way, small tidbit, I don't know if you know this, I retired my husband when he turned 40. So when he turned 40, so that was 12 years ago,
Wow.
um, I bought him his dream car, an Audi A6 with amazing wheels or whatever, and, told him to quit his job, and he's never gone back to a corporate job either. So he's done a lot of other things. He's a photographer now, and he found his creativity, but that felt really good to be able.
That's
So
amazing.
I retired him from that. Then he came and worked with me for a little while, and then I fired him, and then I hired him again. I mean, we were so just kind of living. I'm telling you, like, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I'd fire him on a Friday night. I go, babe, you're absolutely fired. Like, just log out. I just can't. And then 2 weeks later, I would be like, I don't know where such and such is. And he goes, oh, wish you had somebody to do that for you. And so I'd have to hire him
I
back.
love that.
Yeah, there's lots of lessons along the way, but I definitely I lost my train of thought.
Well, no, okay, so let's go back to the second business. We should mention
Oh,
the Fresh 20. It's still making seven figures a year.
it was when I decided to do business coaching, and
Yes.
so I started something called the Subscription Lab, and I started teaching other people how to do memberships and subscriptions, and I did that. I mean, and that gave me so much joy, because watching somebody that was like on an hourly job and never thought that they
Yeah.
could, make as much money. I remember one of my first clients, she found me off of a podcast. She called me up. She said, I really want you to help me. And I said, great. I said, well, what's your dream? And she's like, well, you know, I'm making like $100,000 right now. And I said, well, what would be your dream? And she said, well, if I could make $240,000, that would be like the best thing
Life
ever. And I
changing.
said, I'm not the person for you, because you're dreaming too small. I said, honey, I can get you to that in like 6 months, And so she was like, what? And that person, like one of my first clients, she now her business that she started is like multiple seven figures a year. And she was a Pilates instructor.
I love this. I love this.
So I just feel like, I kind of was like, well, I went through all of the hard knocks and I did everything and I kind
Yeah.
of learned how to do it. And so it was truly my honor to teach other people how to do it. And so I did that for a decade.
Okay, you've said like you've gone through the hard knocks. Take us to a low point that you've had.
Okay. So the lowest point of the Fresh 20 was I got hacked. And somebody stole $500,000, and it took me months to find them, and I had like forensic people and all of this thing going on, like what is happening, and they had like inserted all this code into my systems, and it took a long time to unravel it. And then when I did, their final like pièce de résistance was um uh ruining all my systems.
All the systems, and I know you took like it was a year to get remove yourself from the business and create all these systems to be able to
Yeah, I
manage
did,
it.
because, they literally ruined. So, at its peak, Fresh 20 had probably 100 and a little under 120,000, like, active subscribers,
Wow.
and then over time, we've had over 250,000 subscribers, but when that hack happened, um, he ruined everything, and Google would bring up my website as like fraudulent. So people that were on the subscription couldn't even log in. People would get like big notices on their thing when they went to go use the service. And so that wiped out about 75% of my client base.
Okay, Melissa, when that happens and
Yes.
75% of your revenue disappears overnight, essentially, how do you manage that from a mindset perspective? Like, how do you emotionally manage that?
I mean, it was probably the darkest year or couple of years of my life, and it wasn't the money. It's
Hmm.
that I built something and somebody took it away, and I had no
Hmm.
control. I had no power. That was the worst part. Because at the time I was also business coaching. So I had a revenue stream there as well. And, 25% of what we were making was still good money, but it was just the hit of not being in control.
Mhm.
And that took a minute to
Yeah.
recover from. Like it really took time. And being a business coach and having clients and helping them build their business, I didn't tell anybody for 3 years.
Wow.
Not a soul.
Why? Were you embarrassed? Were you like
I mean, I was still working through the emotions, and yeah,
yeah.
it was embarrassing to admit that, wow, this happened, like, I let this happen, and that this is, I'm supposed to be this expert, and this
Mhm.
happened to me, and I took a lot of that on as personal responsibility, and so, yeah, I mean, there was definitely some shame and some embarrassment attached to it, and I remember I was in a mastermind, and I hadn't told anybody, and, one night we were all just at like an aftermind together in someone's hotel room. There was like 12 of us sitting there. And I finally just told my story and it just floored everybody. And they were like, Melissa, you have to tell people this because this is like really important for people to understand that, and your story and like how you overcame it and everything. They're like, you have to. So I started opening up about it. I started talking about it. It still stings. I still look at the balance sheet sometimes and I'm like, because we are no longer a multiple seven-figure company, and so
Mhm.
it stings a little some days, but, you know, the Fresh 20 is still alive and well. We have some subscribers that have been with us since the very beginning, like 15
Wow.
years they've been with us. Um, it's run now by a small team. I think that was the biggest thing. At the time, I had a team of 17 when all of this happened, and obviously, I couldn't maintain that team and, like, try to rebuild, and
Yeah.
that was the toughest part, of, like, letting people feeling like you were letting people down,
Yeah.
and so, but my team was so gracious and amazing, and I think what I will say about building a business is you can never prepare enough for crisis, like, outside of the business, right?
Right.
And so systems and having, like, some type of redundancy where somebody else knows how to do
Mhm.
something in your business, I think if you think about that when you're starting it, it will make it a lot easier for you when life gives you a hard knock, right? Because when that happened for my business, I went down to a skeleton crew, but I was inoperable for an entire year, and my team ran my business because we had the process and the procedures and the systems in place that they could.
Which is amazing and a testament to your own business savvy to build that up, that you could be MIA for a year and the business is still, I mean, not making the multiple six figures or
Right.
sorry, multiple seven figures,
Yeah, yeah.
but still making presumably more than you made in corporate.
Yes, yes.
Let me ask you, at any point of this, did you think, you know what, this is too much trouble, too much stress. I'm going to pack it up and go back to corporate where it's secure. I can bank on my income. Like, did that
No,
even cross your mind?
never.
Why?
Um, because for better or worse, I live my life on my own terms, and I just don't think it's something that I'm willing to give up. I'm just not. So, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, I just I get emotional about it because I feel lucky. I feel so fortunate that I've created a life for myself where I get to wake up and decide. And some days suck.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. Some days suck. But I wake up, I go for a walk with my husband. We have our coffee in the morning together. I don't work on Wednesdays, so we like do other things. We go to the movies. I can fly and be with my kids. I can travel. Um I can take a day off and I don't know, watch old Cary Grant movies if I want. I can decide that I'm gonna not start work until 3 o'clock and then work until 11 p.m. Or I can decide I'm only gonna work from 6 to noon and then I'm off. And that kind of freedom is is worth it to me.
Same.
And I get to be myself 100% of the time.
Hmm. Even on the days that suck.
Having that kind of freedom to live like as you are is worth the price of admission. And the price of admission is sometimes it's not easy.
I think that's so powerful and so honest and real that it's not always going to be easy. I mean, I think, especially when you look back in the first 2, 3 years, we're like, not, they weren't easy street, but they were like, oh my God, like we're growing. Oh my God, we got picked up by this major, major distributor or major publication. Like, oh my God, this is happening. And it's not always going to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have so much respect for the Fresh 20 and what I built and what it gave me. I mean, it gave she's now like, I guess, my house manager. Like, she just manages our life in so many different ways, but it gave her a pension fund. It gave us a pension
That was your
fund.
original nanny, right?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
original nanny that she said, "Let's do this." And then she said, and I said, "I might have to put your your paycheck on a credit card." She goes, "We'll figure it out." She's like, "I'm not worried about it. I'm here with you." And she meant it. And she has been like, I think just having that kind of support was really important because I had her support for like all of the things, right? So I could
Mhm.
really be like, I need to focus today. I need to do this. Can you handle this? And then I had my husband's support on the other side. Like, he really held the line for me and saying, like, just, just do you, just be who you are. Just, you know, y- he's like, you don't have to worry. He's like, at the end of the day, like, what's the worst that could happen? And he's like, we'll both like do some creative job and make less money and be more happy, you know?
Wow.
And so, um,
I mean, you had a lot of support. Did you have any naysayers in your life at the time?
oh, everybody, when I told everybody that I was going to start a business, um, selling what everybody said, oh, you're going to sell recipes online? Recipes are free. Like, everybody was like, huh, okay. And I was like, it's not about the recipes. It's about the curation. It's about putting the puzzle together. It's about saving women time. It's about showing them what's possible, all of the different things. But yeah, there was so many naysayers. And I remember there was a lot of people like in my family that were like, because Trent and I weren't sharing our numbers with anybody,
Hmm.
our family, and we weren't like dancing on rooftops. Because we didn't know. We're like, oh, we don't know.
It could fall apart at any minute.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't doing books. I didn't there was, like, nothing. So, there was a lot of people that were like when we'd see them, they were like, "Oh, how's your little website going?" And we were like, "Oh, it's going good. Like, I'm enjoying it," and Trent and I would
Meanwhile,
be
you're making
giggling.
7 figures.
So, so yeah, there are people that will diminish it because one of the things that happens when women leave corporate and they start their own business, and I see this, that the people in their lives now think they don't have a real job. So they were like, "Well, why can't you do this?" Because, and they're like, "Well, why can't you do this for me or this favor or whatever? Like, why aren't you more available?" And you're like, "Because I have a job." But they don't see it as that, right?
It's so
And
funny you say it that way too, because when I left corporate and I was determined to do it on my own and I didn't have anything, like nothing was fleshed out, every time I saw my dad, the question would be, when are you going to get a real job, Sarah?
mhm. Yeah.
And it's so tough when you don't have you don't
Yeah.
have the numbers to back it up yet. You have the vision, but
Yeah.
no one else can see it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think that I never really cared because I was never Like in school, like, I had my MBA friends, and most of my friends were all business people, right? And they were just, like, making business deals and building companies and doing all of this. And like I said, like, me being in corporate was kind of happenstance. Like, it wasn't a plan. It
Mhm.
wasn't "Oh, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna turn it into this and this." It was just like I kept seeing opportunities in front of me, and I was taking them. So I didn't have that same, like, "Ooh, I'm building towards something," right?
Right.
I gotta get to this place. There was, like, a destination. I've never had that. And, and I see how my corporate friends that I have right now, like, my 2 closest friends in the world are both vice presidents, in entertainment. And I just really wish that they could see that the job, like, they're so afraid of losing that job,
Mhm.
you know? They're like, "What will it mean? What will I do? Do I have enough to last? Like, how long could I think? I can't, I can't retire. I'm older. Am I gonna is anybody else gonna hire?" And the
And it's all fear,
conversation that
fear, fear, fear.
happens, yes,
Mm.
it's just so much fear-based, right? And I think that, like, I'm always like, "Best thing that you can happen to you is you get laid off. Best thing." And they're like, "No, it wouldn't be the best thing." And I'm like, "Trust me. Trust me." Because you just don't know until you know. And then when you find it, you're like, "Oh, wow. I spent a lot of time worrying about the other side, and the other side's not so bad."
You know, I love that. So I love that so much. I have a similar message, but I think people think that I have ulterior motives. Like, oh, I'm looking for, but I caught up. I had dinner with a couple of girlfriends the other week who they used to be my work besties, right? They like this was 12 to 15 years ago. And I see the life that could have been mine, like
Mhm.
hearing about their life that could have. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't trade that for the world right
Yeah.
now. I wouldn't trade it for the world. You, Melissa, like one thing that I admire so much about you and your journey is that after you had that wake up call, and I keep going back to your husband being like, I don't like you anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's just a stab to the heart a little bit. And for you to pause and be like, me neither. One
Mhm.
of the things I admire so much about your journey is just always in alignment, or when it's out of alignment, taking that pause and be like, okay, wait a minute, something's off.
Yeah.
Or I'm spending 40% of my time that lights me up.
Yeah.
How can I veer more towards that, the thing that
Yeah.
lights me up? And I think, and I want to bring this back to what you're doing now, because what you're doing now is so much about helping other entrepreneurs get into alignment. And I think it's so, before you tell us all about what you're doing now, I think it's so common. And I see this even, I see it for myself and I see it for women in corporate, but also for entrepreneurs. Like you go in with, fully aligned. Like I
Mhm.
went in being so excited about my corporate career. The learning curve was steep and I loved that. And it was very aligned for a while. And then I got to a point where either I grew or the values shifted. There were mergers and acquisitions and the values of the company shifted. And I was no longer in alignment, which is kind of what forced me to say, this is no longer it. But I've seen you do the same thing within your entrepreneurial career, not just getting out of corporate, but
Mhm.
even finding that alignment and kind of chasing that alignment in your entrepreneurial career. Tell us about what you're doing now and what
Yeah.
brought you to where you are now.
So it's interesting because I kind of went through the same thing where I was I mean, I love business coaching, don't get me wrong, like, I really love it, but what I was realizing as I was getting older and a lot of my clients were getting older is that so much of what we were working on was identity work and, losing the roles and losing the titles and figuring out, well, who am I actually, right? If I'm not
Mhm.
if I'm not the executive, and I am not the mom anymore because I'm an empty nester, and I'm sometimes not even the daughter anymore, and which happens for a lot of women, certainly happened for me. I've lost both my parents. I think I I just hit that thing where I'm like, "Okay, is what's most important to me right now, am I doing that all the time?" And I think I just hit this wall, Sarah, that there was so many people online just promising to make other people money, and I was just like, "This is just not what I wanna do anymore," because it's you can have all the money in the world and you can get somebody to that state, but if they don't really, have alignment with who they are and a true identity that can exist without titles, then it's not really going to matter if I can get them, to 1,000 subscribers because
Right.
where you go, there you are. So I kind of just decided I was going to close down that business and just focus on working with founders that were kind of ready to pivot and make a change, but to work on the identity piece of it. And, it hasn't been the easiest. And I certainly, would make more money if I just opened back up my schedule to business coaching. But I feel like I'm, it's worth the price of admission.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Where can people find you who resonate either want to like let me get that food subscription service, like they want to get on the Fresh 20, whether they or women who maybe have achieved everything they want to financially or on paper, but things
Yeah.
aren't feeling aligned and,
Yeah.
maybe not want to start a business or more
Yeah,
likely
I mean,
they've
maybe they just want the courage to exit the business that they built because,
right.
what happens is that became my identity. The Fresh 20 became my identity,
Yeah.
being a woman that had generated an eight-figure business and that was my identity, right? And so I think it's important for women to take a look and say, especially as, you're going into whatever people call it, your third act, your second act, your third
Mhm.
quarter, whatever people want to call it. But women in their 50s, and to a certain extent, women in their 40s, there's a lot in front of us. There's a lot in front of us. And so I feel
100%.
like this is really important work to figure
Right.
out who you're going to be in that next chapter and what,
I love that.
yeah, and
Like,
how you're going to be it.
I'm 46 and people like when people say, "Oh, you're 4" I'm like, "I just feel like I'm getting started in life." Like
Yes.
I
You
finally feel
are.
like I'm listening and I'm taking time for myself and I'm doing something that I love and it
Yeah.
just feels like I'm just getting started. And I love that you're sharing that with people who have might be doing the second act, third act, maybe even fourth.
Yeah. I mean, the easiest way to find me is probably Instagram.
Okay?
I'm Melissa Baker Lanz on Instagram, and I'm out there. My website's just Melissa Lanz, and um, yeah, I'm lit up by the possibility of helping other people like really find what their next move is as kind of main character energy, I guess. Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so if you I mean, our entire audience are women who are still in corporate right now,
Yeah.
thinking or maybe curious about starting their own business. What would you tell the person who's listening to this and be like, "Oh, what, you know, what if?" What would you tell her if she's like stuck in corporate, stuck being told on a Wednesday that on Friday she's going on a 10-day trip?
Yeah. I would say that if you wake up in the morning and you're in the shower and all you can think about is how much you don't wanna go into the office, it might be time to have a conversation about how you're spending your life and your time and your energy, because that is a huge tell. Because I believe that every woman should, at least go for it to have a life that lights them up.
100%. I love that because I think when I was in corporate, I had so many of those moments and I didn't pay attention. And then my health got worse, my relation,
Yes.
like things kept falling apart
Yes.
until there was nothing left to fall apart.
That's a huge tell as well. Like when you're, you know, when I was in corporate, I had horrible, just pain in my abdomen. Like I went everywhere. I went to specialists. I went, to all of the places, and I just could not get rid of this pain in my stomach. And after I quit, I kid you not, within 7 days, the pain was gone. It's never come back.
Wow.
And I dealt with it for almost 18 months of just having this physical thing happening that was definitely giving me signs. So signs are
That's amazing.
everywhere. I think signs are everywhere. When it's time to leave, the universe will definitely tell you.
I totally agree. I 100% agree. And in the same notion, I mean, looking at your career, especially your entrepreneurial journey,
Mhm.
not only will you get signs of what's not working, but I feel like you followed I always say the breadcrumbs of joy that get you to where
Yes.
you're supposed to be. You've
Yes.
also listened to the whispers and the tells of where you're supposed to go, not just leave, but where you're supposed to go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think leaving a situation that you know and going into a situation that you is unknown to you is an act of courage. But I would say be courageous because, the thing that you're in is not ever gonna there's no path to joy if you're miserable in corporate.
I love that.
There's just not. So, you know, it takes a lot of courage to say, I want more for myself, but just be
And
courageous.
trust,
Yeah,
and trust that it's available.
it's absolutely available.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've so enjoyed this conversation.
Me
And
too. It's so
also, I
fun.
just want to thank you especially for sharing your numbers. I think that's so important that we've been taught almost not to talk about money.
Yeah.
It's crass. Especially in corporate, heaven forbid you share your salary because then someone else may know that they're being underpaid. I
Yeah.
think it's so important also to know what's possible and that we're so afraid that we won't make as much as we will in corporate,
Mhm.
completely unaware that there's so much more available.
Yeah. Yeah, and there absolutely is, and there's a lot of creative ways to get there as well, right? And so you don't have to give up who you are. It's just a matter of really stepping into 100% of what you want.
Thank you so much. Seriously,
This
I'm
was
so
fun.
happy you came. I'd
Thank
love to
you for
have you
having me.
back. Thank you, Melissa. I'm going to drop all of your links down below so people can find you, people can follow you. It's just been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it. I love you.